So a little introduction about myself. My name is Rachel Raz. So if you can hear from my name, it's Israeli name. Even though I lived here in the US for 25 years, so some people know me here as Rachel, or as you see on the book, it's Rachel Raz. So you can call me whatever you want. I go by both. I grew up in Israel and moved here to the US about 25 years ago. And since the beginning that I came here, people asked me about Israel, and I start sharing with them through photos and stories and food and other things. And this is actually what led me later on to make the book, sharing the country, the place that I grew up, that I call home. I also call Massachusetts my home, but sharing this with you and with friends all over. Some things to know about me. So beside the fact that I published this book, The Colors of Israel, that we're going to talk about. And I also published the ABC Israel, and tomorrow we're going to have a session about ABC Israel. I'm also the director of the Early Childhood Institute at Hebrew College. Hebrew College is a pluralistic college in Massachusetts. It was established in 1921, so next year we are celebrating 100 years. Originally it was created as a college for a teacher college. And now we have rabbinical school and cantorial school and school of education. I'm actually a graduate of this school of education. Andrea is a graduate. We have some of our students also here at this Zoom meeting, which is wonderful. I'm also running a Boston-Haifa connection. The city of Haifa and the city of Boston are sister cities. And we work very closely with the early childhood department there. And I feel very fortunate to work with them, learn from them, visit their school regularly, host groups in Boston, and show them what we are doing locally. And I try wherever I am in every part of the country to go and visit different schools and learn from other people of what they're doing. So I'm not here just to come and teach, but I'm here to come and learn from you. So thank you for participating and also sharing your wisdom. So this is a little bit about me. I'm doing many other things, but I think that's enough for our meeting today. And I want to introduce Andrea Shapiro. She is a graduate also from our program. And Andrea, say a few words about yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad that you could join us this evening. As Rachel said, my name is Andrea Shapiro. I am a master's graduate student from Hebrew College. I got my master's in Jewish education with a specialization in early childhood. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it, means that I did a lot of early childhood stuff. While I was at Hebrew College, I really developed a passion and a love for Israel education. Part of that was through my learning at Hebrew College. Part of that was through my experience with the I Center in Chicago, which is the I Center for Israel Education. It was a program that I got to be a part of, a master's concentration, and I got to spend a year studying with 25 or so other students intensely about Israel education and how to bring that to students. I also am part of the Boston-Haifa Educators Connection, where we have an exchange between Boston and Haifa, and I've been fortunate enough to go to Israel twice with that group and kind of form relationships with people and get to actually see the place that I want to teach about.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrea. And I'm going to dive directly into the book and some ideas and how to use it. And I did make a PowerPoint that I'm going to share, and we're going to look at it. And I'm going to also ask you some questions about it. So this is the cover of the book. I want you to look at it. We're going to go through it. And I'm going to share some information about how I made the book, why I made the book, and what are some of the goals. One of the reasons, as I shared with you originally, I wanted to, I took pictures over the years. I taught in religious school, with preschools, with adult learning, and I constantly took pictures of Israel to share with them Israel that I knew. And but over the years, I and this was mostly like as sharing with people about their country. I have friends from Iran, and I have friends from Italy and from Australia, and we all shared information about our countries. But when I work for many, many years now also in the Jewish world, of course, we have also different layers when we're bringing Israel. It's not just bringing another country like we're doing in many cases that I can learn about Paris, or I can learn about France and other places. But there is a different connection between Jewish people wherever they are around the world to the land of Israel. In some way also Christian people, because there is many Christian sites in Israel, and also for Muslim people. But since you are all working in some capacity in the Jewish world, there is definitely a significant part of Israel to what we do. It's not just about the current Israel and the relationship right now, but it's when you teach, for example, about the holiday of Sukkot or Tu B'Shvat. I don't know about you guys, but in Boston, when we celebrate Tu B'Shvat, it's usually snowing and it's cold, and it's not really the best time to celebrate birthday for trees. Also, when we celebrate Sukkot, many times it's rainy. It's not like in Israel. If you're located in a synagogue, or if you go to a synagogue, the arch and the Torah usually everybody prayer to the direction of Israel. So there's all of this like long connection to Jewish history, Jewish history and memory of the Jewish people to the land of Israel. And of course, in the past 72 years and more, the connections with the modern state of Israel. So my idea was, when I made the book, that how can we teach Israel from a very, very young age to the children? What are the things that actually they can connect to? Because there are many levels that, of course, it's too much for them. I'm not going to talk to them about politics, and there's many things that are not applicable. So I was trying to choose different themes that anyway very applicable for children. For example, young children learn about colors. So that's the reason I decided to go with a very basic concept, with the basic of colors, because this is something that we teach anyway. So it seems like a very simple book that you probably think that took a day, but it took, I would say, like a year of thinking what pictures to put in, and why, and what are some of the different things. And you can use it just once a year, just before Yom HaAtzmaut, but I'm going to show you, and Andrea, and we can discuss how you can use it year round. So if you look at the cover, for example, one of the things that sometimes I like to do is ask you to look carefully at what do you see on this cover, and why do you think that I chose this as a cover? First of all, how do you know that this is actually Israel? It's not a beach somewhere else. And you can write your answer, if you like, in the box, in the chat box. And if you look very closely, what are the things that you see there? So these are some questions that we're asking ourselves in early childhood. What do you see? Or what do you think when you're looking at this? Or what do you wonder? So look at this picture, and what are some of the things that you see, if you can write. Andrea, can you read some of them? Can you see them?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of people responding. Israeli flag, we've got done panorama, the flags, relaxing, a lot of flags.
Yeah.
Shows the buildings and the beach, lots of blue and white.
Yeah, so
tall buildings.
So some of the things, you are right. We have the flag of Israel, so you can tell that this is in Israel. But also I want you to, there are some, in the background you see there are some hotels, so this is a place that we can stay. There's also the beach and some chairs. But also if you look at the left, you will see this little building. Can anyone recognize what this building is? And also write in the chat box. And Andrea, if you can look and tell us what, if somebody
Sure.
anything.
Someone said a watchtower, a minaret, a mosque.
A mosque.
So it is a mosque.
Mm-hmm.
It is a mosque, and that was deliberately I chose this picture because in one hand we see that this is the flag of Israel, but also to show that in Tel Aviv there is a mosque. So in Israel there are Jews and Christians and Muslims. They're all living together in Tel Aviv and Jaffa and many other parts of the country. So just from this little picture of the first, you can already see from this first picture how these little details that you look carefully it's not just like, that all these fun colors on the beach and that's it, but how much you can have a full conversation about this flag, and we're going to find this flag later on, and this picture in the middle of the book. So let's continue to the next one. So the next picture, again, we're looking at colors. So I chose the color red. And also this is a great opportunity to teach some Hebrew. So I included the name Adom, both in Hebrew and in transliteration and translation. So this is a great opportunity with young children to teach them also some Hebrew, at least to get used to some of the sounds. And I chose something like a train, because a train is something that many of your kids maybe had the opportunity to ride on a train in their past, or they will, and they can compare if it's, do they have the same kind of train, or they have a different train where they live. So again, like a very familiar motif. The next, this is all different things with transportation. We do teach transportation with early childhood. For them,
Rachel?
Yeah.
There's a question about the reading of the book, and there is, and I'll give you guys the link for it later. The book is available online, and I'll share that with you later.
Yeah, there is a place for it, and I'm actually working this video, hopefully to create a little recording video of me reading the book, and I hope to get it ready by Monday so you can share it with the children. So this Corona time actually pushed me to do this webinar and to do this video, something that were in the back in my mind, but I never got around to do them. So let's continue. Let's see, what do we have? So as I said, with the color red, I really looked at some of the transportation, some things that if they walk around their kids, and this is something also if you're teaching it through Zoom and you're sharing with them, you can come and even each day, you can choose a different page of the book and look at different colors and ask them to go and find those things maybe in their own immediate communities. So if you're looking at the sign, to stop, do you have the same stoplight in your community, or is it different in other places? The same with the mail. Today, we are very fortunate, that the mail is working, and we are looking for the mailman, like a wonderful guest that coming to our neighborhood every day. And I start actually sending lots of mail to relatives, and we are very excited to see it coming every day. So let's move to the next one. The next one is orange. And this is, again, the same picture from the beginning. And this is, you say katom, which is orange in Hebrew. So let's continue. We already discussed this picture a little bit. And this is the fresh oranges in the Jaffa market. And this is, again, you can talk with the kids about bringing oranges. In Israel, actually, oranges was one of the biggest export in the beginning of the state of Israel. This is not the case anymore. Now Israel is exporting different things in high tech. They're exporting water in some way directly or through flowers and vegetables and other things that they're exporting. They're exporting many different things related to cyber and solar energy and other things as a tech country. So let's continue. The next color is yellow, and this is the color Tza'ov. Again, I hope to have this video that also I pronounce the color, so if you're not sure how to say it, you can hear me again. I'm going to send you also a link with this video recording. I'm just going to pause for a second and shut the window behind me because I see that it's bringing too much light. Just a second. Thank you. So the color Tza'ov, these are trees in a little city of Givatayim. I deliberately actually chose some cities that are not as familiar and not as known for many of us in some way to push us and come and say, I don't know where is Givatayim. I never heard about Givatayim. Let's Google it and find it. So deliberately I chose not just Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and some of the big cities that we know about to push us. So I am pushing you a little bit by choosing some of these places. And of course, flowers and blossoming. This is again another thing that you can ask the kids to go around and take pictures in their neighborhood if they see anything blooming, and to compare if it's the same trees or the same plants that they see in Israel, or you see the same things in your neighborhood. I'm actually working with one of the local preschool at the moment. They're preparing Yom HaAtzmaut celebration with their friends in Haifa. And each school actually decided that they're going to ask kids to take pictures of themselves in their neighborhood with the plants and flowers, whatever is growing in their immediate surrounding. So they can compare what they have similar or different. So this is, again, just looking at something like trees and thinking about what if it's familiar or not. So let's continue with the color yellow. The next thing on yellow, on the left, you can see a bus stop. And these are some bus stops in Tel Aviv, very close to where my parents live. When I go and visit them, you can also look at the trees behind them. It's a different kind of palm trees. And on the right, you can see a cable car at Rosh HaNikra. Again, I chose Rosh HaNikra because many people don't know what Rosh HaNikra is or where it is. And this is actually the northern, the northest one in Israel. This is where is the border between Lebanon and Israel. And this is like the point, you go there and it's actually the line between them. This is the way it looks. Beautiful nature, wonderful view of Israel. Again, this is the northern part that you can look at the land of Israel, the Mediterranean Sea. This is again the cable car. One of them is yellow, the other one was red. And I even saw these two little ones playing in the area. So again, looking at, challenge you again to find like different kind of cities, different kind of places, researching them, or sending the families to research them, or if any of your kids, if you have any Israelis or any family ever visited Israel, maybe to ask them to share some pictures of places that they visited before. So a little bit. And let's see, we have next, we have the color green. And Andrea is going to talk a little bit more about the color green and when she's going to share some of her work. But this is the cacti, it's called the sabra. And many times people speak about Israelis as sabres or tzabar. They say that we are prickly from the outside, but we are sweet inside, and sometimes we can be harsh. The way we speak, the way we behave, but we are actually nice and warm inside. At least that's the myth. I think that sometimes we seem very direct and harsh. It's because we translate the language, and Hebrew is very direct, and Israel is just translated, and it sounds like I'm demanding, I'm asking. And it's not because I'm very rude and not kind, but it's really the way, the structure of the language. So, so the prickly pear, and again, like, do you have in your area other cacti that are growing up in your area? This one are bikes in the city in Tel Aviv. You can rent them, you can travel, you can see on the back the beach. It's the same beach where I took the pictures of the cover of the book. On the right, you see recycling. Israel is trying to be better about recycling. So you see recycling container around the country. It's still a work in progress. I think one of the big achievement of Israel is actually recycling of water. I think it's like #1 in recycling water in the world. So this is something interesting, but I don't think that they're that high in other recycling of paper and other things. But this is something, again, that we share. We care for the land. We want to make sure that it's going to be better. In many of the preschool, actually this year, they decided to move to plates and not paper plates, but really to move to regular plates and to wash them to take care of the environment. and to feel more responsible about that. And if you have some question while I'm going over the books, you know, feel free to write them. But again, I wanted to give like an overview of some of the things that I selected. So already you can see that there is transportation coming in different forms. Here you see bikes. We had a train. So we're going to have different plants. We had a tree. We have the sabra. We have Hebrew language. So there's many different things that you can that you see as different themes. And of course, the Israeli flag. This is actually a picture I took at the Israeli airport. They have this like souvenir shop, and I saw this like beautiful display with some of the ceramic, and the word blue is kahol. It's very hard when you write a transliteration because it's like kachol or something like that, but it's kahol. So you can practice. And this is a picture I took in Jerusalem. It's from the S Promenade that you can see a view of Jerusalem. Here is you see the old city. Somewhere inside is the Western Wall. And I chose this picture because at the promenade, there was this plaque with a lion, and the lion is one of the symbols of the city of Jerusalem. So, and you will see it later on in the book, and Andrea is going to share how this actually inspired her for a full curriculum about lions. But if you go all around the city of Jerusalem, you find this beautiful lion everywhere. And we are into the color afar, gray, and this is again on the same beach in Tel Aviv, and you see many different pigeons on the beach. And this is again, if you think about what kind of birds are living in your area, like you can show this picture and you can then ask the kids to go and see if they have what birds they have in their area. In the Boston area, we have cardinals and blue jays and robins and many other. I like to have bird feeder outside to look at them and know their names and get familiar with them. And here again, you see the lions. These are the lions. Again, you can tell that this is the city of Jerusalem because only in the city of Jerusalem you can find lions also on trash can and on a bench. It's really everywhere. And the next one is one of my favorite because food is always wonderful. And here you see the challah, the chalot in plural. And this is the color brown, the color chum. So it's not shum, it's chum. And you see many different kind of chalot. In Israel, it's very easy. Every Friday, wherever you go, you're always going to find chalot. Here where I live, sometimes I can find challah on Wednesday and sometimes it's on Thursday, but not always on Friday. So sometimes I need to buy it on Monday and freeze it because I don't live in a Jewish state or in a Jewish community where they know that chalot is Friday. So in Israel, when you go, you find chalot everywhere, which is wonderful. It tastes very well. Also, that page, if we're talking about food, so on the next page, we have here on the bottom on the right, we have sufganiyot, which is the jelly donuts. And this is usually eaten for the holiday of Hanukkah. But you can find them almost year-round in Israel. But during Hanukkah, you see them with many different kind of filling. When I grew up as a little girl, that was the only kind that we had. It was jelly donuts. But later on, people became like more sophisticated, and as I call us, the Starbucks generation, everybody like a different taste and different flavor. And the top one is actually a cow at the Golan Heights. It's also in the northern part, in the border with Syria. And actually this photo, just a little anecdotal point, this photo, actually, I didn't take this photo. This was taken by my older daughter when she did Birthright. And when I was making the book, I was looking at some pictures and I said, can I use this? And I like to share it also with the children, the fact that my daughter is the one that took the picture. And when we made the book, we made it together. So I did give her credit in the beginning of the book. There was another picture I'm going to show you later with my younger daughter that she took, and I like it, and I asked her to use it. So it's how we can take pictures of our neighborhood and we can share, or if you ask them to make if you had to make a book about your neighborhood or where you live and share it with kids in Israel, what will you show them? So I think this is a fun way to look at that. And the next page, we're looking at the color black, shachor. Again, it's not shakor, it's shachor. It's Hebrew is a tough language. We like the cha and we love the ra, and making life complicated. So it's shachor. And this is on the beach on Tel Aviv. If you see to the background, far in the background, you see more older homes. This is the city of Jaffa. In Tel Aviv and Jaffa, it's actually one municipality, which is one of the fascinating places that when I bring group to Israel, I like to start sometime in Jaffa. It's usually not on the radar of people to go and visit, but it really shows how old and new are living together. You're talking about a 4,000 years history in the city of Jaffa, and you have a city like Tel Aviv that it's about 100 and something years. And you see really the old and the new all coming together in one city. And of course here, the black flags is just to make sure that people won't get into the area between the two of them, to be cautious. And street signs in Israel are coming in most places in 3 languages. The first one is Hebrew, the second one is in Arabic, and the third one is in English. Because in Israel, Hebrew is the most spoken language, but also there are many Arab citizens, Christians and Muslim, and they study in Arabic, they read books in Arabic, so also the street signs are in Arabic. There are also people that speak English, but I think it's mostly for tourist visitor to make it easier for them. So I think this is also a nice way for people. I know that many times when I share this with people, they are surprised to learn that actually Muslims and Christians are citizens of Israel and living within Israel. Because the only thing that they learn by the news, they think that Israel is a Jewish state and then there's Palestine with the Palestinian. And they don't really know that there are so many citizens, that there are physicians and nurses and teachers. And I go to visit some of the Arab preschools and the Arab Jewish preschool, the mixed schools. So this is something that even through this like little sign, you're already kind of sharing the fact that in this place, you have people that speak different languages. We have the mask on the cover of the book to show that there are people celebrating and practicing different religion, and they're all citizens of the same country. And again, this little thing that maybe you wouldn't notice in first reading, and when I made this book originally in 2015, my idea was to write a full curriculum about it. I just didn't get around it, so I'm very, want to thank you for coming and listening today to some of that, because that was my goal to share it with you. So the next one is white. White is Lavan. Lavan this is Montefiore windmill in Jerusalem. This is also a very interesting place in the history of Jerusalem. There was the old city of Jerusalem, and then Montefiore wanted to build a new city outside of the wall. And people thought that he was crazy. They were afraid to live outside of the wall. And he built a windmill so they can work and they can to create jobs. It actually used to have a different kind of handle. They changed it a couple of years ago. But this is the windmill. It's a beautiful neighborhood. So if one time either you went there or you're going to go again, it's really one of the beautiful neighborhood. This is again in Jerusalem. The picture on the right is the one that my daughter took a picture at the Kotel at the Western Wall. It was a woman that was praying. Again, like I chose something like a prayer book, first of all, for them to see the Hebrew, but also this might be something more familiar for kids in America that maybe if they go to a synagogue, they know what a siddur and a prayer book is. So this is something that we have here and we have there. And then on the bottom, it's the Shrine of the Books. It's the home of the Dead Sea Scrolls. These are one of the ancient scrolls that we have that because of that, we have many of the stories, the biblical stories and other. And it's just like a fascinating building. You see the water on it. It's actually the water are keeping it cool to make sure that it's protected and cool. And it's very interesting. And this is actually, you see, again, like a side note, this is a group that I was leading many years ago, and we took the picture when we were there. But it's also, you can talk about like architecture of different buildings. So this is like very interesting building. And inside it's look like the Torah scroll, the handle of the Torah scroll. And the last one that we have is actually the color pink, varod. And this flower in Hebrew, it's called rakefet, and you can buy it actually locally. And I actually have some here behind me. I actually have here at home. So every time that I see the rakefet in the store, I go and I buy it because it brings little Israel to my house. As a little girl growing up in Israel, every winter, and actually until today, just that you know, every time that flowers are blooming somewhere, like when the rakafot are blossoming around Jerusalem, you will see in the newspaper that now all of the fields are full with them, and you will see thousands of Israelis driving to see them. Israelis like to go and explore nature. The same thing with the kalaniyot. It's the other flowers in different fields that are also like, that Israelis like to go and see them where they are blooming. So that's why I chose it, because for me it's very, very Israeli, this flower. And I wanted to include this in the book. Again, to see, do you have them in your community? Or can you just buy them in the store? So at least you have the option of bringing Israel to your house, or at least looking at them. And also this is like you can do a full learning about different kind of flowers and the way they look and the shape of them and the colors. This is another wonderful exploration with children. And the last page is actually stamps. Two things actually in this page. One of them is stamps that are all pink, and you see the left one on the top is actually the same flower, the rakefet, and you have also the menorah, the temple underneath it. I love the stamps. I actually collect stamps since a very young age. I'm always fascinated with stamps. I have a collection. I actually teach classes about teaching Israel through stamps. And if you're interested, write in the box. I'm happy to make a session just about teaching Israel through stamps. I actually subscribe to stamps from Israel. Like these are stamps about the 4 seasons that I received recently. These are about some birds. So I really, really love stamps. I think that the stamps are art, beautiful art, that you can learn a lot about the country by looking at the stamps. And I think today, time of the COVID-19, maybe it's time to send letters again. As I said, I start sending lots of letters again. I just wanted to share when my mom, when she sent us letter, especially when my girls were young, she used to put also kisses on the letters. So so I couldn't really throw it away. I just love this, to see all of the kisses that she sent to the kids with the stamps, and I collected it. And today I actually spoke with several school directors, and they shared with me that the teacher wrote letters and mailed it to the children. So they get something in the mail, something fun. So this is a little bit about the book, just a quick overview with some insight of why I chose what I chose and the possibilities. And I do want to give now the stage to Andrea so she can share with us what she took from these books when she started looking at them. And meanwhile, if you have any questions or anything, ideas, just keep the chat going. Of course, we won't be able to get into everything in your chat, but we're going to save it, and we're going to review it, and we're going to get back to you with some more information about that. I do want to share one last thing after this page, just that you know, this is my email here on top. You can email me at rraz@hebrewcollege.edu. If you do need certificate of participation for PD, we're happy to send you one from Hebrew College. Just send me an email and give me your name and indicate it, and I will be happy to share, to send you a certificate either later this week or next week. So Andrea, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I saw a couple of you had some questions in the chat, and I'm hoping that through the presentation you'll get to see some of it. I'd love to share something I created with you guys. Bear with me for 1 second. Can you see this? A thumbs up. Can you guys all see this? Great. So when Rachel asked me about this, she and I have been talking about the colors of Israel and creating a curriculum for it for quite a few years now. And I've been thinking, as I've been teaching and working, I spent almost 13 years as a preschool teacher. I've taught everything from infants all the way up through pre-K, and kind of how I would use it in my classroom. So that's kind of the perspective that I came from for this. A lot of you are asking where you can find the book, and fortunately the Colors of Israel is available online for free if you have an educator's email. There's a website called Epic, and it's getepic.com. And this is what it looks like. So when you log onto the website, you'll just search the name of the book, and you can actually read it while you're Zooming or chatting with your kids. It's the exact book that Rachel just showed you, just digitally. So that's a really nice resource. They also have thousands of other books available on the website. I love coming up with activity ideas, and I'd love to know if you guys in the chat could just let us know how many of you are toddler teachers. I see a couple of familiar toddler teacher faces, but it would be great to know how many. And I was kind of thinking how we can incorporate this and how we can share this with some of our toddlers. So what I've done in some of my learning is take pictures that I've taken when I was in Israel. The picture behind me is one example of that, and share things that I've seen and I've learned. If you haven't been to Israel, that's totally fine. Google search is amazing. You type in what you're looking for and tons of options come up. While kids are home right now, send them on a scavenger hunt. Read the book and ask them to go on a scavenger hunt for a specific color or a specific shape or something that they can do. When reading a book, not just this book, but any book, have them look out specific colors. Find me all the blue things on this page. Find me all the green things. Color sorting. If your kids are anything like my daughter, she would sort everything possible. So sorting is always a great option. Color hop, which is this picture here that I found. You know, draw colors of chalk and hop from one color to the next. Color mixing with ice cubes. Always a fun activity. Maybe when it's a little bit warmer outside, it might be a little too chilly right now. And color matching with pom-poms, which is this activity over here. If you don't have color stickers, a marker will do well. You just draw, you know, little colors and then match the pom-pom or the item to the color. These are some pictures of mine that I took when I was in Israel. The little fox is my pal Shuali, who came with us to Israel on both trips that I went to. Before I went on my first trip, I asked my kids, I had 3 different stuffed animals to choose from, and I asked my kids to let me know which one they wanted to come with me to Israel. So Shuali was the winner, and Shuali and I went on a hunt to find some orange things. And these were just a few of the pictures that I came up with. My daughter actually found them. We were going through my Israel photos, and she was the one who picked them out. Here's a sample of some of my blue pictures. This is a blue door in Sfat. There's tons of blue stuff, some blue mosaics, the beach, a Chagall window. Once you really start looking, there's so much around you that you can pull from. I had my daughter, who is 8 years old right now, work with me. So I gave her 3 minutes and I said, here, go find me everything blue that you can find in 3 minutes. And this is what she came up with, the paper, a flag. It was really fun to see kind of what she went for. And this was what she came up with. The next thing we did was pink. And going through pictures, I found things I didn't even remember. So when we were at the Kotel at the Western Wall, this top picture on the left, somebody had put pink notes in the wall. So it was pink paper that was put in the wall. It's kind of hidden everywhere. On the bottom left are candles in Sfat, and you know, the wax is pink, the flowers, chocolate, ice cream, all of that kind of stuff. Again, I asked her to go find some pink items. Bit of a theme running here. She found some of the same stuff. And then I kind of took a deeper look into a particular topic in the book. So I was reading the book with my daughter, and she was like, what's Akko? What is that? So I was like, great, we can explore it. So Akko is an ancient city in the northernmost part of Israel. You can see it right here, the little pointer. And so we spent some time learning about Akko. So Akko, and the really nice thing about this for me was that I was learning along with her, even though this may not be stuff to use with toddlers. There's definitely, you know, younger kids that you could do this, or you could adjust it to work with kids of different ages. So we learned about the ancient city. We learned that it was how many people lived there. We learned that it was a port city. We learned about some of the walls. And these are photos that I took when we were there. So it just kind of was nice to be able to match the learning with the city. This is also part of the wall and part of the aqueduct. As you can see on the left, it doesn't really exist anymore. And this is within the ancient city of Akko. These were a couple of things that we came across. On the top right here, there was a gentleman who was squeezing pomegranates to make fresh juice. Top left, they were making halva freshly and selling it. The bottom was a little shuk market. And the right were the signs to the tunnels and the bathhouse. And so the Templar tunnels are a really interesting historical place. If you're learning about Akko, if you're looking into it, it's a really cool place to explore. They have ancient musical instruments that they found down there, ancient drawings. It's a really cool place to learn about historically. So once you're starting to learn about one ancient place, why not learn about more than one ancient place? And this would be a really great opportunity if you're working with your kids to talk about architecture and design and drawing and shapes and mosaics. So these are pictures from the ancient city of Caesarea. And two other cities you could potentially look at are Chorazim and Sipori, which are also really ancient, unknown cities. I had done an entire 3.5-month-long unit based on the mosaics from one of my mosaic pictures with a preschool class a couple of years ago. We spent months learning about mosaics and designing them and creating them, and then each child created their own mosaic to take home to their families as a garden mosaic to put out in the garden. The green page, what really clicked with me was this little bit here, the recycling. So when we were in Haifa, particularly visiting the preschools, one of the preschools in particular, they spend the majority of their time focusing on recycling, reusing, and bettering what's around them. So this top picture at the left, the teacher basically asked all of her families to bring in all of their old water bottles, soda bottles, drink bottles, and she turned them into planters to create this is an urban preschool. So they had very little planting space. So she created a vertical planter. The green garbage can on the bottom left, these are all over Haifa. These are all over Jerusalem. Sorry, with the lion. And that little lion kind of got my heart a little bit. And that's what Rachel mentioned earlier. So the first time that I went to Israel, we were walking around Jerusalem and I kind of found these little lions peeking out everywhere. They were just all over the place. And so I started taking pictures. And after a few different conversations and a little bit of research, I found out that the lion is actually the international national emblem of Jerusalem, I'm sorry. And so I decided to create a book for my kids about it. And so everywhere that I found the lion, I just took pictures and I created this book, and it sparked pretty much a year-long exploration into lions, not just lions in Jerusalem, but we talked about lions in Africa, and then we started learning about Asian lions, and we started learning that lions in South America are different to lions in Africa. So it just kind of, this was with older kids, these were with 4- and 5-year-olds, but I think it's really important for us to remember that kids are more capable than what we sometimes give them credit for. So getting back to this, sorry. So looking into recycling a little bit more. Something else we saw quite a bit on the top left here, they would take cutoffs from vegetables that they gave, you know, they fed the kids every day, snack and lunch. So they took their cutoffs and they were growing them and watching what was happening to them. So they took some turnips and some celery they had there and the tomatoes, and they were just watching them, and that was part of their science experiment, kind of to see what happened, and they were documenting them. And I think that this is something that we could totally do with our kids now while they're at home. You know, you're making a salad with your parents, see what happens, you know, save the cutoffs and see what happens. The bottom picture is the other side of that same school that I was talking about in Haifa. This was another one of their fences that they created, the vertical garden. And they created a noise wall over here on the top right with shakers. They filled them with rocks. They had sticks in some of them. They were using sticks to play the instruments or the noisemakers. And that's it. So if anybody has questions or would like more information or more ideas, please feel free to shoot me an email, text me, or call me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you guys might have. Thanks so much.